Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. This is our third episode, and this week we're going to talk about domestic abuse. Why I'm calling it domestic abuse is because it takes several forms. People think of domestic abuse as women with broken noses, black eyes, split lips, broken ribs, this type of thing. But it also takes on the guise of emotional abuse, psychological abuse, financial abuse, sexual abuse. You know, there are many aspects to domestic abuse. So that's why I've kind of avoided using the word domestic violence. It shouldn't be from the Muslim perspective, but quite often the factors that go along with domestic abuse involve alcohol, involve having witnessed domestic violence in their own childhoods, so their fathers perhaps beating their mothers or keeping the family deliberately short of money, or having an atmosphere that is very demeaning, oppressive or humiliating in some way, where there's drugs involved, where there's mental illness involved. And I think for the Muslim community, where we have quite a high number of immigrants, and especially of refugees and asylum seekers coming into this country, post-traumatic stress disorder, where people have seen and witnessed and maybe even been part of some pretty awful things that have left a significant impact on their mental health. Control is also a significant part of abuse. The need to control the other person, control every aspect of their life. And if they don't do as they're told, to become angry and aggressive, maybe beat them. Allah teaches us that kindness towards women is the best path. Sure, women have their responsibilities, they have their role within marriage, and they must ensure that their own behaviour is as it should be. But to be unjust and unkind to a woman, to your wife, is not what Allah wants from Muslim men. It is not acceptable. It is not acceptable to raise your hand and beat your wife. It is not acceptable to frighten your children. It is not acceptable to withhold money from your families so they don't know when they may get food. Let's talk about families. Let's talk about children, because quite often pregnancy is the start, where women say the start of the abuse begins. Pregnancy, because of a woman's helplessness, because of her vulnerability, quite often is a turning point in the relationship between a husband and wife. And sadly, in pregnancy is quite often where the man begins to beat the wife. So already we are into the realms of child abuse. We are already into the realms of, by beating your pregnant wife, you are actually abusing your unborn baby. You are putting your unborn child at risk of the woman hemorrhaging, of the woman miscarrying, of that baby being born and possibly dying, or being damaged. As a social worker, I have worked with children that have been damaged in the womb through the mother being hit in the stomach. And the stomach is quite often in domestic violence, when a woman is pregnant, the target for a man, I'm sad to say. When the children are born, people like to think, you know, the couples like to think that the children are asleep in bed, the children are in another room, you know, they're not affected, they don't know what's going on, you know, the husband comes home late at night, the children are asleep. No, you're wrong. Children know what is happening. Children are affected by what is happening. Children lie awake upstairs waiting for their father to come home, for the trouble to begin. They wait quietly and they sit upstairs and they are afraid. And sometimes they come down and they try and intervene and they try to protect their mother. And I'm saying mother, I mean, I know there is evidence that women are violent towards men. Yes, I agree. But the percentage, the proportion of women to men and domestic violence is much less. So I am focusing on domestic violence towards women. And my professional experience has primarily been around the consequences of domestic violence against women. I mean, I've worked with women who have been humiliated, whose children have been encouraged to beat their mothers, to kick their mothers, to swear at their mothers, to disrespect their mothers. What do you think we are creating in our societies when fathers abuse their wives in front of their children and encourage their children to do the same? What kind of society do you think we are creating? What kind of society do you think we're creating when a woman is afraid to speak to anyone, is afraid to have friends, is afraid to go out of the house because her husband is controlling her every move? This is not okay. This is oppressive. It's not just, and it's against Islam, because Islam is not about oppression. Islam is not about injustice. Allah is about love. Allah is about love of your wife and love and care for your children. And let's not make any mistakes about this one. I know the Quran has been used against Muslims, and men have used it against women on many occasions. The little quote there, the few little lines where it says, and if the woman doesn't obey, turn your back on her in the bedroom, and if she still doesn't obey, then beat her. But this beating the wife is not what this is meant. And I think the alims need to be much clearer to the Muslim community about the meaning for this. But what I want to focus on more than anything is about the effect on the children. When children, boys and girls, witness their mother being beaten by their father, what happens is the son invariably becomes aggressive towards women. And the chances are, there's a high chance that he will also later in life beat his wife or beat women in general. With the girl, she will invariably pick a man who will beat her. She will pick that personality type that will beat her. And so it goes on generation after generation after generation. And the effects of domestic violence, the effects of domestic abuse, it corrupts our societies, it destroys our families. And brothers and sisters, you need to be aware of it. If you know of this happening within your families, with maybe your brothers and sisters, your aunts or uncles, your mothers and fathers, go to the mosque, talk to the sheikh, ask for help, get the family together. That's all I've got to say for today, and thank you.